Hi, this is Ryan Lawler from TechCrunch TV. Today, we're heading to Machinima, a network on YouTube which has built a huge audience around gamers and their fanboys. We're going to find out how they're building episodic online content and talk to their CEO about it.
While it did start out Machinima as an art form, which is basically creating movies out of video game engines, now Machinima is all kinds of content with a certain sensibility. And I'd say the sensibility is polarizing. You either love it or you hate it, but you won't feel nothing about it. It's intense. I think it's Terminator, not a never-ending story, right? If you were thinking about kind of ends of the science fiction or fantasy universe. Lots of explosions, that type of thing is where what our audience gravitates towards.
So we are focused really on being a global consumer entertainment brand. So in the emerging sort of video space, especially on YouTube, there are a number of different players, a number of different business models emerging, some focused on being sort of behind the scenes, some focused on aggregating channels, some focused on providing deep, rich analytics on what's happening in the YouTube ecosystem. Machinima, from our earliest days, looked at sort of the renaissance in cable television programming brands and modeled the company essentially on guys like MTV and Fox in the broadcast space and HBO as kind of emerging consumer-facing programming brand.
We first focused on a specific audience in the gamer audience, saying, what would be the most kind of the best opportunity around engaging them with content. And as you said, a lot of it was user-generated content, but we realized very quickly that in order to be consistent and be able to deliver all the content we thought that they wanted, a lot of it had to be produced in-house by us or with partners. So what UGC became was we would look out and say, who are the best directors or best creators, and give them more budget to kind of say to themselves, oh, I can have a career in this business and be an animator or be a live action director and quit my job wherever I am, right, and make this a career, and Machinima will help fund that.
Why is gaming so important, or why is that type of audience, why did you settle on that?
If you looked at the activity that was happening around gaming, it was actually gigantic, right, and very fanatic in the sense that not only were they playing hundreds of hours on Xbox or PlayStation, but they were creating content and millions of views were being generated. So what we've seen over time, over the last, let's say, couple of years, is that we were at about 95% male, and now it's about 70%. And because it's more of a attitude, or a fanboy is a bad name for it, because it's no longer boys. It's just, fan culture. We have 200 million uniques monthly now. We have the largest engagement metrics of anyone online in terms of minutes watched for VOD. And we're beating like ESPN and everybody on YouTube as it relates to time spent. But we see that going to grow as we're able to deliver more and more long-form content, because obviously, if you look at Netflix, they have the largest amount of time spent because of the type of content that they have, right? And so I think that's where we're headed.
Machinima definitely has a brand.
Right.
If you see somebody on the street with a Machinima t-shirt, it means something. And I won't mention another MCN, but let's say if you saw somebody with an NBC t-shirt, right? Someone's not going to be like, oh, that peacock shirt is rad, man. Where did you get that? But if they see a Machinima t-shirt, it means something. So I think a lot of our creators want to join Machinima because they want to be part of that club, right? This MCN means something. We have a very specific focus, a very specific audience that we care about, and people want to associate with that.
How many channels do you have as part of your network now, and how do you sort of find those creators and bring them into the network?
I'd say we have about, I think we're in the 7,500 range of channels around the world, and I would say one of the potential differences between us and others is that we are focused on both people in front of the camera, but also people behind the camera, filmmakers, animators, writers, directors that want to actually create new types of content. We've actually invested in 6 big episodic series, including Mortal Kombat and Halo and Battlestar Galactica and Receiver, Bite Me, these kind of shows. And this is an area that we think is really important for us, this kind of playing into this kind of episodic series kind of narrative for fanboys.
Is there more that you do on other platforms, on mobile or tablets or?
Well, we recently launched an Xbox application, and we got like 1 million installs in 20 days. And we were told that it was like the fastest install in the last year or so. There are really kind of 2 revolutions going on in the digital video space, right? There's what's happening on YouTube, which is all of these these kind of new networks are being born, part of it from a pseudo user-generated perspective that migrates to more professional. And then there's this kind of binged high-end consumer consumption that Netflix and Hulu and SVOD services on cable like HBO and all that stuff is leading. And we think that there is a connection between those worlds, right? And so how that exactly evolves, whether that evolves on YouTube, whether it evolves partially on YouTube or other platforms, I think there are some really interesting examples to be seen there. I think Hulu, for example, with their AVOD and SVOD model, I think that's an interesting business model that replicates the dual revenue stream of cable networks. So you've got an advertising revenue stream and a subscription revenue stream. And I think what we're going to start to see are these, what I call global over-the-top super brands, right? That start to really have the attributes of premium programming as well as the attributes of YouTube. I think people think of these as 2 distinct worlds. I think people are going to start bringing together, because you just can't, I know there's been a lot of chatter about get off YouTube or whatever, or get off the farm. The issue is, if you get off the farm, you could starve. I think you're crazy if you're not on that farm that reaches 1 billion people. The question is, what does the whole ecosystem look like for you as a programming brand? Right. And I think that still remains to be seen, but there's no question that YouTube has to be a fundamental part of that equation. We think of Comcast as a huge business, and it is a huge business, but they reach 23 million subscribers per month. YouTube reaches 1 billion people per month. It is staggering relative to the history of television, right? So I think how there are issues there, and there are huge opportunities there, but it is clearly a fundamental piece of everyone's strategy. It has to be.